It began as an ordinary afternoon, the kind filled with laughter, music, and the buzz of people gathering for an event. Among them was a young woman in a wheelchair, her face bright with excitement and anticipation. But that excitement quickly turned into confusion when the security guard stopped her at the entrance. With a polite but firm tone, he told her she couldn't enter because the venue wasn't designed for wheelchairs. The crowd around her went silent. Some looked away, others whispered, but no one stepped forward. For a moment, her smile faded, and in its place appeared quiet disappointment, the kind that comes from being told you don't belong. It wasn't just a physical barrier she faced, it was the invisible wall of society's indifference. And in that heavy silence, you could feel the weight of injustice pressing down. Amid the uncomfortable silence, one voice finally broke through. A single dad standing nearby with his young daughter. He had watched the scene unfold, the disbelief in his eyes growing with every passing second. Something inside him refused to stay quiet. He stepped forward and asked the guard a simple yet powerful question. Why should she be treated differently? His tone wasn't angry, just firm and human. The crowd turned to look, surprised that someone had dared to speak. He didn't know the woman, didn't plan to be a hero, but he understood what fairness meant. Perhaps it was because he was raising a daughter and wanted her to see what standing up for others looks like. In that moment, his words carried more than protest. They carried compassion, courage, and the reminder that silence helps no one. One voice had finally spoken truth to injustice. Courage isn't always loud or dramatic. Sometimes it's a quiet decision made in a split second. That's what this single dad showed. He wasn't wealthy, influential, or powerful. He was just an ordinary man who believed that wrong is wrong, no matter who commits it. As he stood there, he didn't know how people would react or if anyone would back him up, but he spoke anyway, because deep down, he knew silence would make him part of the problem. The guard hesitated, unsure of what to say, and the crowd began to stir. What started as one small act of defiance became a moment of awakening. Courage, after all, isn't the absence of fear. It's doing what's right despite it. And in that simple stand, the dad proved that true strength lies not in authority, but in empathy and conviction. What happened next was something no one expected. The same crowd that had stayed silent only moments earlier began to find their voices. A few people nodded in agreement. Then another spoke up, and soon the murmur turned into collective support. The guard, once confident in his decision, began to falter under the growing wave of disapproval. The young woman who moments ago sat in quiet humiliation now looked around and saw strangers standing beside her. It was as if one act of courage had unlocked the humanity in everyone present. People began to realize that fairness is contagious. When one person stands up, others often find the strength to follow. The air, once heavy with silence, now felt alive with purpose. It proved that kindness has a ripple effect, and sometimes all it takes is one brave voice to remind others of their own. That moment did more than challenge one unfair rule. It exposed how deeply rooted our assumptions can be. Too often, people with disabilities are treated as if they're asking for special treatment, when all they're really asking for is equality. Accessibility isn't a favor, it's a fundamental right. The woman in the wheelchair didn't want sympathy, she wanted respect. The same simple dignity every person deserves. The incident forced everyone there to confront an uncomfortable truth. The barriers we build are not just physical, but social and emotional too. When we exclude someone because of their difference, we're really revealing the limits of our own understanding. The single dad stand reminded everyone that inclusion doesn't require grand gestures, just awareness and empathy. True progress begins when we stop seeing disability and start seeing the person. And that's where real change begins. As the crowd stood united, something powerful became clear. Change doesn't always start with leaders or laws. It starts with people like us. Every one of us will face moments when doing the right thing feels uncomfortable or inconvenient. In those moments, we have a choice: to stay silent or to speak up. The single dad's courage showed that we don't need to be extraordinary to make a difference. We just need to care enough to act. His daughter watched him that day, learning not just about fairness, but about humanity. And perhaps that's how a better world begins, not through speeches or slogans, but through everyday acts of conscience. Each of us holds the power to shift the course of a moment, a mindset, even a life. Because sometimes one voice is all it takes to turn injustice into change.